coming up on Inside Track. This is the 49th year the Principality of Monaco has hosted a Grand Prix race, and each year the residents see their home transformed from an idyllic Mediterranean enclave of sea and sun into the world's most famous street circuit. Formula One racing, part and parcel of the Monaco lifestyle. Today's drivers are among the richest and most celebrated athletes in the world. Ayrton Senna is one of several drivers who maintains a home here in Monaco.
It can be crowded at times, but you have privacy in a way, and you also have security here, which is important in somebody's life like us.
Nelson Piquet has a boat here in the harbour. Gerhard Berger has a boat here too. Keke Rosberg has also lived in Monaco for a number of years. The former world champion now represents Lotus driver Mika Häkkinen's business interests and was instrumental in convincing the Formula One rookie to make his home in Monaco. For Häkkinen, this would be his first Monaco Grand Prix in a Formula One car. Careful scrutiny of the circuit beforehand is a must.
What about coming downhill here, Mika?
I think this is also a very difficult part of the Monaco circuit, because you don't actually know. You don't actually never found the right place to brake here, because you're coming so much down the hill. It's difficult to concentrate where you go on the brakes, and because you can see that how the circuit drops down, it's really deep, and it's very difficult to find, and that comes from the experience. Hopefully, I found the right braking place early. Maybe I have to follow some more experienced driver to find the right braking place, but never know.
This is the first gear turn?
Yes, definitely. Very difficult indeed, because you have to put so much lock on your steering. You have to turn everything, and at the same time you have to change the gear and keep the right balance to the car. Let's say the most difficult thing is when you are in the first gear, you have a massive power in your engine, really massive power, and if you go too hard on the throttle, the car spins immediately or starts understeer massively. That's why you have to be very careful. How can you use your throttle?
What about coming through the tunnel here?
I don't know. I don't really know. It looks very interesting. I think this is going to be flat out in six gear here. I don't know. It looks great.
The tight confines of this circuit, coupled with the ever-increasing speeds of Grand Prix cars, promotes an old argument. Has Formula One grown too fast for Monaco?
They've been asking that question now, I think, since probably the beginning of the modern era, that's to say in the 1950s. Motor racing has a perhaps unique ability to allow machines still to be mastered by man and still to be retained within a circuit, for example, such as this one that many would say is obsolete. But it's still the showroom for motorsports, at least for Grand Prix racing. I don't think the racing cars have got too fast for Monaco, and I don't think that Monaco's grown too small for Grand Prix racing. I think they complement each other very well, and I still think Monaco is vitally important to Grand Prix scene.
Monaco has hosted some great races over the years, with some memorable performances by drivers and 49 years of continuing improvement in car technology. Many of the cars that did well at Monaco were on display at Donington in England in early May. It was billed as a celebration of 25 years of 3-litre Formula One cars. On display were some Formula One classics, Ronnie Peterson's Lotus, Keke Rosberg's Tag Williams, the McLaren of James Hunt, Gilles Villeneuve's Ferrari, Sir Jack Brabham in the car that made his name famous, and the Wolf driven by Jody Scheckter. Other cars included Emerson Fittipaldi's Copasuca, a Surtees, the Yardley BRM, and Jackie Stewart's Tyrrell. There to demonstrate the cars on the track, among others, were Scheckter, Hulme, Brabham and Bell. And when it came time to get out onto the track, they all showed that they hadn't lost their touch. The Monaco Grand Prix has seen some unusual things over the years. In 1981, a fire in the kitchen at Lowe's was soon extinguished, only to have the water flood into the tunnel and delay the start of the race. However, when the race got underway an hour late, Gilles Villeneuve took victory in the Turbo Ferrari. Riccardo Patrese was the man of the hour in 1982. He managed to avoid the problems by such up-and-coming drivers as Alain Prost, but he did have trouble negotiating Lowe's hairpin. Despite it all, he recovered to win the 1982 Monaco Grand Prix. The following year, Keke Rosberg, the reigning world champion, took the flag in his Williams. Nelson Piquet was second, Alain Prost third. In 1984, Alain Prost was to start an amazing run of 3 consecutive wins at Monaco. And just behind him, in this rain-shortened race, Ayrton Senna in a Tolman, who was poised to take the lead when the checkered flag came out. Senna would win here in 1987 and was well on the way to victory in 1988 when a lapse of concentration saw him hit the wall heading into the tunnel at Lowe's. That gave Alain Prost his 4th win in 5 years, but it left Senna a determined man. He's won this race for the last 2 years, so he certainly knows what it takes to conquer the streets of Monte Carlo.
The feeling of speed is great. The emotions are really strong. The feelings are strong because you're running fast at some places, still with the reference points very near to you, which increase the feelings of speed. Difficult to overtake, not only when you're fighting, but also to overlap slow cars. Difficult to get a clear lap in qualifying. Very, very difficult to go fast around here and not touch the walls. So it's all a major challenge here, but I feel good around here, I like the place and I like the challenge.
Senna and McLaren have proved to be a near unbeatable combination in Formula One racing. Their continued dominance is a tribute to the leadership and management skills of their leader, Ron Dennis.
McLaren's job obviously has to be to win, but there are those that would say McLaren's continued dominance is bad for the sport. How do you answer those people?
Well, we can't speak for our competition. You can hardly expect a team that exists to win to be concerned about winning too much. We're only getting the results that we work for, and other people are going to have to work harder. We're not going to reduce our effort. We know how difficult it is, and I can assure you it really isn't easy. It's very difficult. We only think we get the result that we work for, and other people have to try harder.
It's your competitor's problem, it's not yours.
Absolutely.
McLaren's main competitors seem to be going through various stages of misfortune and technical change heading for Monaco. By their standards and budget, Ferrari were having a terrible season. Team manager Cesare Fiorio and drivers Alain Prost and Jean Alesi refused to speak to the press, while covers on their engines suggested technical changes were in progress. Benetton's new car was only racing for the second time. Both failed to finish at Imola. John Barnard was hoping that that would change here. One interested bystander checking on Benetton's progress was Derek Warwick, now driving in the Sports Car World Championship. Williams and Riccardo Patrese in particular were showing considerable potential. Now some luck and reliability in this, the toughest of Grand Prix on both car and driver, would prove the ultimate test of their ability to mount a serious threat to McLaren. Tyrrell's Honda V10 was the same engine that took Ayrton Senna to victory in this race last year. Stefano Modena would relish a chance to get at a street circuit again after his fourth place finish in Phoenix. After finishing second here last year, Tyrrell hoped that they had the winning combination. At the other end of the pits, Footwork were hoping to salvage something from what was a disastrous season so far, with both Alex Caffey and Michele Alboreto not qualifying for either Brazil or San Marino. LaRousse were testing both car and driver. Here, Aguri Suzuki is wired up to test the change in the cardiovascular rhythm he goes through during various stages of driving. But all eyes were on one man, Senna.
In my personal case, I love driving, I love competing, I love to be, to try to be the best. That's what I aim for. I have some responsibilities which I try to cope to my best ability, but I'm not certainly an ambassador or a politician. I have never been, and I find it difficult to believe I will ever be one, because my main motivation is really to drive a racing car and to share with the people who follow it throughout the world all the challenges that I get through, all the overtaking maneuvers, all the starts, all the qualifying laps, all the winning and the fights that we put to them. And that's where I try to share with people in generally something special.
Away from the main shopping and business centre of Monte Carlo is the suburb of Fontvieille. It's where Benetton driver Roberto Moreno has made his home. He, along with wife Celia and 3-year-old daughter Andressa, like the proximity of the centre of town without the problem of Monaco traffic and noise.
It's good for my daughter here, because she can play around. There's a little park here next door. We have a supermarket downstairs. We have the bread shop. We have everything in Fontvieille. So Fontvieille is the quiet life of Monte Carlo, really. When I'm traveling all that, I always with the team and trying to work with them. But when I come home, I spend a lot of time at home. I like the electronics. I'm now learning how to use computers. And I like the sea. So I have a little rubber boat. which we can actually water ski with it when the weather is a bit warmer. And I like windsurf. And so I spend most of the time at home or in the sea.
On occasions, Moreno likes to get together with other Formula One drivers who live in Monaco.
I'm based here, and I don't get to see much of them. I have met few drivers. I often meet Leto around here, and we've been trying to water ski for a long time, but we never had a chance to go together yet. And we had a very good water ski day with Martini, and those are the people I actually see here.
Moreno gets around town on his motorcycle, as he did for Thursday's first qualifying session. Normally, Friday is the first day of practice and timed qualifying, but it's market day here in Monaco, so the first day of track action is brought forward to Thursday and Friday is a day off. Giving the Monaco residents an early morning call was the pre-qualifying session at 8 in the morning, where JJ Leto set the early pace. However, Scuderia Italia teammate Emanuele Pirro went quicker still. And Andrea De Cesaris beat his time in the Jordan Ford. Leto, however, was ultimately quickest in the session. And Bertrand Gachot came in with a time right at the end to be fourth quickest. Olivier Grouillard, however, had this spin and failed to pre-qualify. In the official qualifying session that afternoon, Ayrton Senna claimed the provisional pole position in the Marlboro McLaren Honda. Once again, it was one of those do-or-die attempts right at the end of the session at which he is so good. He finds a hole in the traffic, has a clear lap, and managed to set a time inside his previous year's pole position lap record. Making it look as though it would be a McLaren Honda 1-2 was Gerhard Berger, second quickest. Third was Riccardo Patrese, inspired by the speed of his car. But Nigel Mansell was less happy after practice.
All right, Nigel Mansell, how did qualifying go today?
Terrible, but it'll get better on Saturday.
Alain Prost wasn't happy either, his Ferrari jumping around on the bumps of the Monegasque circuit. Nelson Piquet was fifth quickest, much happier with the gear change of his new Benetton. The car had been sorted out quite considerably since the previous race at Imola. Jean Alesi was sixth quickest, and like his Ferrari teammate, complaining of the handling of his Ferrari over the bumps at Monaco. Mika Hakkinen was already on the limit in the Lotus Judd.
Saturday, can you improve your time and move up the grid?
Yeah, definitely. If the weather's going to be better, you know, definitely I can improve the time. I can go somewhere 13th position, 12th position. We're going to make a couple changes in the car, not any big ones, but a couple small ones. And I think Saturday we can improve the car a lot. And time, of course.
At the end of the day, Brabham driver Martin Brundle learnt that all his efforts had been in vain. He'd been disqualified from the Monaco Grand Prix for missing a weigh-in at the entrance to the pit lane during qualifying.
What was the ruling and how do you see it?
Apparently I failed to stop at the red light and passing the weighbridge. Of course I didn't see the red light, otherwise I would have stopped. We know the situation. Clearly it's my fault for not seeing that light. There were a few mitigating circumstances because they changed the procedure with the flagman, which the officials admitted to. But the rules are the rules, and I'm afraid FISA are the policeman, the judge, the jury and the jailer, and there's no way of appeal. And they threw us out of the race meeting for the weekend.
It's got to be a bad feeling for the team. What can you say?
We can only say sorry to the team, and it's terribly frustrating, particularly at a time where we need some results to avoid pre-qualifying. But it's a little bit unnecessary, I think. I mean, we're here to put on a show for hundreds of millions of TV viewers and hundreds of thousands of people, and it seems silly to throw people out unnecessarily.
Senna on provisional pole then, but on Saturday his competitors will be hoping to change that. Friday, and a day off from racing, but not from the parties and functions. Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet have lunch with their sponsors on this yacht moored in the harbour. Just a few hundred metres away, Roberto Moreno is at a lunch sponsored by Italian motorcycle giants Cagiva.
Who do you think will win on Sunday?
I don't know. I think it's very good Grand Prix, but especially for Ferrari.
Internationally famous fashion model Yasmin and her pop star husband Simon Le Bon were at the same lunch.
Simon Le Bon, are you a big racing fan, and what brings you to Monaco?
I guess when you're in the bedroom posing in front of the mirror with a tennis racket instead of a guitar, dreaming of the rock and roll life, the Grand Prix is a little part of that. And it's something I've always wanted to do, and we came down here, it was a chance, and we came down. It's a great place for us to have a little bit of fun.
The scenery, proximity to the track and wealth of subject material make Monaco a perfect backdrop for the professional photographers who travel on the Formula One circuit. Almost all were unanimous that Monaco was at the top of their lists.
Ma direi che Monaco è tutto spettacolo, la pista.
In Monaco, everything is spectacular. The track offers great photographic opportunities. It's unique in the Formula One world. Here, there's many people, famous personalities. It's all important to shoot. You've got to have 10 hands and shoot in 10 different places, and you have to know the right places to go to take the best shots.
It's basically the atmosphere around the circuit rather than the circuit itself, I find, anyway. Plus, you know, I mean, the boats, the people, the whole atmosphere is fantastic.
And because the speed of the cars is not so high as at many other circuits, it's a bit easier.
Not so many girlies today, unfortunately, because the sun's not shining. Everybody's got their clothes on, but then there you go.
I like particularly to work around the Los Casino because you get some really good shots there. You can get over the top of the car, you can get head-on, side-on, you can use fisheye lenses and make some really pretty pictures with all the buildings and things.
The most interesting is the cars because it's the only way in Formula One where you can have it between houses and people and very great atmosphere for the cars. It's my 29th Grand Prix in Monte Carlo.
For amateur film buffs, a piece of advice on how to get the best pictures of cars.
How to get the best pictures of cars in Monaco, I would say that's very easy because all the stands in Monaco are very, very close to the circuit, unlike other circuits. Keep the speed high because most amateur photographers tend to have a bit more camera shake perhaps than the professional, so perhaps stick to 1,000th speed and if necessary uprate your film.
Friday night saw the annual Marlborough dinner at the Sporting Club. Special guests were invited to meet some of the top drivers in this gala black tie affair. Among those in attendance were Mauricio Gugelmin and Ivan Capelli of Leighton House, Giancarlo Minardi, Stefano Modena of Tyrrell, LaRousse driver Aguri Suzuki, former Formula One driver René Arnoux, Mika Hakkinen and Peter Collins were there representing Lotus. Pierluigi Martini was one of 2 Minardi drivers in attendance, while teammate Gianni Morbidelli showed up with JJ Leto of Scuderia Italia. Leto's teammate Emanuele Pirro was there, as was Ferrari team manager Cesare Fiorio. Olivier Gouillard of Fondmetal didn't make it into the race, but he did show up at the party. Eddie Jordan preceded his 2 drivers, Bertrand Gachot and Andrea De Cesaris. Gerhard Berger of McLaren was next to arrive, followed by Ron Dennis and Mansour Ojeh, the men behind McLaren International. Alain Prost was fashionably late, while the last to arrive on the scene, world champion Ayrton Senna. Once inside, cocktails and a formal presentation of the drivers. Then dinner, followed by musical entertainment provided by the Gypsy Kings. And to top off the night, a fireworks display. But on Saturday, it was back to business again. The Monegasque peace was shattered by the sound of Formula One cars going out for pre-practice and qualifying in the afternoon. 29 cars out on the circuit, but they were further reduced by one when Alex Caffey had this horrific accident. Fortunately, Caffey was unhurt, although he had had a severe knock on the head. However, his footwork Porsche was wrecked. Caffey was able to climb from his car and helped over to the side of the circuit by the marshals as the pre-practice session was stopped. What had happened was that he had been surprised by the turn-in of his car, hit a barrier on the inside which sent him crashing into the Armco on the outside. There was a severe impact which literally tore the car in two, the rear end coming off and bouncing down the circuit as Caffey was a helpless passenger in his footwork Porsche. In the accident, he suffered a whiplash, banging his head on the back of the rollover bar. It was a severe blow for the team as well, having had one car already wrecked during testing at Imola. Caffey was looked after by Professor Sid Watkins, the FISA's permanent doctor.
He's got light concussion from his head banging on the car as he hit the Armco barrier. He said he made a little mistake. You see from the film it looked like he hit the wall with his rear tyre going into the swimming pool, which sent him across the road, collecting the apex of the corner, which rocketed him across the other side of the road into the barrier. There's not much left of the car, but fortunately Alex is okay.
In qualifying, of course, Senna was the man to beat that afternoon. Jean Alesi was initially fastest of the session. However, he ended up only 9th, the Ferrari again in handling problems. Teammate Alain Prost could only manage 7th. It wasn't a good day for Cesare Fiorio's Ferrari team. 6th quickest was Gerhard Berger in problems. Twice he missed a gear. Nigel Mansell was only 5th. While Nelson Piquet was 4th on the grid. A substantial improvement once again. Riccardo Patrese was 3rd. Very, very competitive. But the real surprise was Stefano Modena, 2nd quickest in the Tyrrell Honda. His V10 engine Tyrrell would start alongside the V12 Honda engined McLaren of Ayrton Senna. The remarkable Brazilian once again extending his pole position record. He was full of praise for the Tyrrell driver's efforts.
I think Stefano Modena made a good job today, and if he was able to make such a time, improving so much from the first day, he did a great job. I believe it will be great for us to start on the first row. We know each other, we have respect for each other, and I think we can have a good start and a clean start, and we see then what happens afterwards. I am disappointed with Gerhard because I think he had surely the possibility of also fighting for the first row, and I know he slipped back a little bit, and here in Monte Carlo that's very important to be as far ahead as you can be. So it's a shame that he is not in the first row for McLaren.
I had a clear lap, I had a precise lap everywhere, and I think I could done better on a following lap when we changed again the tire and we went out, but I had a person in front of me that stopped, so stopped me the line, so I didn't have a chance to improve my time again. But we are very happy. We improved the car. We are in good shape for tomorrow, and we're looking forward.
Qualifying laps were fine, apart a bit of traffic on the second set that unfortunately probably put me out of the first row, because after the first set I did the 21 dead, the second lap with the second set in the first part was much quicker. Unfortunately, I found traffic just the last two corners, and because of that I think I lost first row. And it's a bit disappointing here because, of course, on the first row you can really start to jump and go into the lead. But okay, tomorrow is the race.
Despite his best efforts, Lotus Judd driver Mika Hakkinen improved his time, but not his position on the grid.
Your analysis of how Saturday qualifying went?
Disappointed, of course. The Thursday qualified I was 19th, and my plan today was to qualify in about 13th or 14th position, but it didn't go what we planned. We struggled with the balance with the car, and we dropped down quite a lot. We have to use same setup what we use at Thursday, and we dropped in the 26th position.
Sunday, FISA's Jean-Marie Balestre injects a little light humour at the driver's briefing session.
Why? Because Mr. Senna was alone in the front. Now please, gentlemen, work a little bit for change the situation. Okay? and we can keep the spectator during all the race. Good luck for everybody, and also for Amber. Thank you.
So the grid for this 49th Monaco Grand Prix: Ayrton Senna on pole position, Stefano Modena alongside him. On row 2, Riccardo Patrese and Nelson Piquet. Row 3, Nigel Mansell and Gerhard Berger in the second of the McLarens. Row 4, Alain Prost in the Ferrari with Roberto Moreno alongside him. Row 5, Jean Alesi in the second of the Ferraris with De Cesaris in the Jordan. Row 6, Nakajima and Pirro in the first of the Dalaras. Row 7, Leto and Martini in the Minardi. Row 8, Gugelmin and Boutsen in the Ligier. Row 9, Morbidelli, and beside him, Ivan Capelli. Row 10, Aguri Suzuki and Gabriele Tarquini in the AGS. Row 11, Eric Bernard and Marc Blundell in the Brabham. Row 12, Eric Comas and Bertrand Gachot in the second of the Jordans. And row 13, Michele Alboreto and Mika Hakkinen in the Lotus Judd. So 26 cars on the grid, separated in qualifying by 4.5 seconds, ready for 78 of the toughest laps in motor racing. Ayrton Senna took the start and led into Saint-Devote from Stefano Modena, then Riccardo Patrese, Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet. They all seem to have got through Saint-Devote safely and charged up the hill towards Massenet, but Gerhard Berger was in trouble. He had hit the back end of Piquet's Benetton and had damaged the front end of his own McLaren. While he headed for the pits, Piquet went off up the escape road at the Mirabeau and out of the race with damaged rear suspension. As Senna led from Modena, Piquet headed back for the pits on foot.
What happened off the start? Well, in the first corner, Berger hit my rear tires and my suspension collapsed.
Teammate Moreno, however, was having a little bit of trouble going into the Casino Square. That lost him so much time that Andrea De Cesaris was able to come past going into the Mirabeau corner, moving up into 7th place. A good effort for De Cesaris. Ahead of De Cesaris, Senna was still leading Stefano Modena. In 3rd and 4th places were the two Williamses, Patrese ahead of Mansell. And then came the two Ferraris, Alain Prost leading Jean Alesi. Senna, however, was gradually easing away from Modena. V12 Honda engine McLaren easing away from V10 Honda engine Tyrrell. Senna, however, had this surprise as he was going up to Saint-Devote on one lap. A marshal suddenly ran across the track in front of him, but Senna kept to his racing line. Let's have a look at it again in slow motion. The marshal probably never realized how close he came to disaster. But disaster had befallen Gerhard Berger after his pit stop, and he was in the barrier and out of the race. He'd been into the pits for a new nose section and was desperately trying to make up time when he went off at the swimming pool.
What happened when you came back and you started again and then you went and you hit the wall again?
I put my visor away and all three visors get away. All the step off goes away. I get some oil on the visor. I try to clean. Everything goes a little bit close. And I just come to the tabak. I put the hand to the steering, and I lost a little bit concentration. I slipped off from the brake pedal, and I just went straight in the wall.
De Cesaris's fine run came to an end when he pulled off the circuit. He had been in 7th place, but trying to take Jean Alesi for 6th. Senna, meanwhile, was threading his way through the back markers. Pierluigi Martini's Minardi Ferrari proving an obstacle. However, Senna eventually made it, going down into the Mirabeau corner. But Martini would later be hauled into the pits for a stop-go penalty for failing to allow the leader past. Behind him were a bunch embroiled in their own battle. And those are especially difficult to overtake for the leading bunch. Eventually, Leto overtook Martini, and when Nakajima tried to do the same thing, he spun. He tried to restart the car, but the Tyrrell Honda driver was out of the race. His teammate, Stefano Modena, was also badly held up by the back markers, and that allowed Riccardo Patrese to close right up on him. For lap after lap, the two were only a length apart. Modena's Tyrrell Honda versus Patrese's Williams Renault. Both V10 powered around the streets of Monaco. This was the battle over 2nd place. Riding down into Mirabeau with Riccardo Patrese. Down into the Lowe's hairpin. Patrese inching closer to Stefano Modena and then into Portier and bringing them to the shoreline section of the circuit. Heading towards the tunnel, but in the tunnel, disaster struck. Modena's engine blew, giving Patrese a face full of oil. He hit the barrier. Modena was out of the race with a blown engine, and Patrese, with front and rear damage, was also out of 3rd place. Despite his nasty surprise, Patrese was philosophical about the incident which robbed him of 3rd place.
You cannot do anything when you go 260 kilometers an hour. In a corner, somebody put down oil, you go off. There is no chance.
The view from Patrese's car revealed the damage to Modena's Honda engine as fluids poured out the back of the car. The driver, birthday boy Modena, was saying nothing. Up into 2nd place now came Alain Prost. Earlier in the race, he'd got past Nigel Mansell when the Englishman's engine suddenly stalled. Prost had inherited second place, but Mansell was now strongly back on form again and reeling in the Ferrari ahead of him. The two were now nose to tail. Round the Rascasse hairpin and down pit straight. Mansell twitching badly, although not complaining of handling after the race. Into Saint-Devote and up the hill, Mansell was now planning his move. Catching someone at Monaco is one thing, overtaking them, however, quite another. Through Casino Square and down the hill to Mirabeau. One of the overtaking places, but Mansell wasn't close enough. Down into the hairpin at Lowe's, nose to tail, but not quite enough to make the effort. And through Portier. Mansell closed up right behind the Ferrari and in its slipstream lined up to overtake Alain Prost. He made his move down into the chicane, locked up his brakes, but amazingly went through. He was in second place, Alain Prost third. And Mansell was soon pulling away. Seeing it again in slow motion, it was a classic overtaking maneuver, with Mansell forcing Prost to give him room, the two of them locking up, but Mansell up into second place. Meanwhile, Mika Häkkinen's first Monaco Grand Prix had come to an end, with his Lotus on the end of a crane and smoke pouring from the rear end.
The engine goes in fire like Phoenix. I don't know what happened, but I think something maybe oil pipe or something electronic, because I smell, you know, something like some cable was burning. And finally, half an hour after, actually I saw the smoke behind the car and then the flames. And immediately I have to stop, of course.
Alain Prost made a late and unexpected pit stop, slipping from third to fifth. He had had vibration with a front left tyre, came into the pits, but it was such a shock, the team wasn't ready, and a wheel nut jammed underneath the car. The jack had to be brought in again, while the wheel nut was retrieved, and Prost eventually the pits, having slipped to fifth place behind Roberto Moreno. Moreno had been caught during the closing stages by Ayrton Senna. Senna had slowed up mid-race, but with the threat of Mansell behind him, had speeded up again and retook Roberto Moreno, putting him a lap down. This had been another remarkable drive from the Brazilian. On the 25th anniversary of McLaren's first ever Grand Prix here at Monaco, Ayrton Senna was heading for his 30th Grand Prix win. It was his third in succession here at Monaco and his fourth overall. Only Graham Hill had won more Monaco Grand Prix, fifth in total. And of course, it was also his fourth successive Grand Prix victory in the 1991 Grand Prix season. On the closing lap, he was making sure he wouldn't make any of the mistakes as he had back in 1988. That race still firmly in his mind as one he should have won, but lost here at Monaco. Heading for the checkered flag, through Tabac, round the swimming pool section. And now heading towards the Rascasse with just 2 corners to go to the checkered flag. And now assured of that 4th victory in 1991. The checkered flag ready, there it is. So victory for Ayrton Senna. In second place, Nigel Mansell, much relieved to have finished in the points and on the rostrum. His first finish of the season. And 6 points for the Williams-Renault
He
driver.
would have given Senna a challenge for his money had he been able to get up with him, but he wasn't. Moreno in 4th place, 1 lap down. Prost in 5th position, 1 lap down. And that means to say, if my mental arithmetic is right, and as Senna does a bit of exhibitionism as he comes into the end, it means that Alan...
Mutual congratulations for the 1st and 2nd place drivers after 78 grueling laps and nearly 2 hours of hard racing around the streets of Monte Carlo. Ayrton Senna celebrated by giving the usual champagne bath, although fortunately not to the Monegasque royal family. Behind Mansell, Alesi moved up to 3rd when Prost pitted. Moreno was a steady 4th from the delayed Prost. Pirot claimed the final point when teammate Leto slipped back. All had not been as well as it seemed for Senna, however.
I would say nothing. I had some problems, but I would say nothing because what it matters is what we achieve in the end. Is the result and is the victory that counts. Another 10 points for the championship. But for sure, to race here in Monte Carlo, almost 2 hours race, it's very hard physically because it's bumpy and it hurts a lot. Your shoulders, your neck, and so on. And if you have also to change gears, it really hurts. But I won, and I'm happy, and that's it.
Senna already has a remarkable lead in the World Championship, but is well aware that there are still 120 points to be won this season. And both the Ferrari and Williams drivers are eager to claim as many of those as possible.
I had a number of problems. One was slow change with the gearbox, but I'm very happy because it got me to the end of the race. Twice the engine cut and stopped on the circuit, and I had to restart it by using the clutch. But then I was catching Alan, which surprised me a little bit with all the problems, and then I don't know who blew up, but there's a lot of oil and everyone was keeping to the right, and I think Alan made a little bit of a mistake going into the tunnel, which enabled me to come alongside coming out, and by the grace of the good Lord I managed to stop in time for the chicane. It was quite exciting, but it was reasonably safe.
The McLaren team already looks invincible in the Constructors' Championship, but few can believe that McLaren's luck will hold on forever, even though they remain admirers of McLaren's tremendous achievement in preparation and reliability.
John Alesi, 3rd place, you managed to finish. However, Alain Prost had some problems. Was your car set up differently than your teammates?
Yes, of course. We had a different setup because we are in trouble at this moment for the car, for the setup, and all of the team try to find the good setup. So that is the reason why Alain had a setup different than me. I had a lot of understand at the beginning, and they destroyed the tires after 4 or 5 laps, and I had to be very careful to stay on the road because the car was very difficult to drive. The car was not set like I would like because it was too much slippery, but when I saw it was enough to finish on a podium, I managed the finish because in Phoenix, for example, I broke my gearbox 8 laps before the end. So that is the reason why I try everything to finish the race.
There were 14 retirements in what is traditionally one of the hardest races of the year. Piquet, of course, was hit by Berger on the first lap, and the Austrian later crashed on his own. Andrea De Cesaris broke the throttle cable after a very brave drive, an excellent drive, and Satoru Nakajima had that spin when trying to overtake a back marker. Michele Alboretto's engine stopped unexpectedly, Mark Blundell went off on Stefano Modena oil, and we saw Mika Hakkinen have his oil fire at the end of the race. Indeed, Ayrton Senna was lucky not to join them. His problem was falling oil pressure. The rest of the pack is closing in. The next race is in 3 weeks' time, and it's the first of 2 transatlantic races. This first one, the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. The circuit is situated on an island in the St. Lawrence Seaway. Very scenic, surrounded by water, but unfortunately, the race has a bit of a reputation for being wet, as it has been the last 2 years. Gerhard Berger was judged to have made a full start last year, and although he led almost throughout, it was Ayrton Senna who took victory. The question is, will he be able to make it 5 in a row in Canada?